All right, here we are, 31 minutes past 7 a.m. on the second day of July, 2025. It's a hump of the week, Wednesday morning. You're listening to the Smooth Breakfast. This is Smooth 98.1. Love music, love life. And we get to take a look at the papers, the headlines, the major stories in the national dailies. This is Freshly Pressed. Welcome along to a brand new day and a Wednesday installment of another interactive session. It's going to be back and forth. That is to say, we take the stories, we get analysis, and we get your thoughts as well. So we give it to you and you respond to us as well. You can do that by sending messages in on WhatsApp. The number remains 0809-444-0981, 0809-444-0981. That is the WhatsApp number. You can also stick around and join us on YouTube. Get your front row seat on YouTube. You can leave your comments in the comment section there. You can find us at Smooth 981 FM Lagos, Smooth 981 FM Lagos. And those are the ways you can be part of the show this morning. Joining me to take a look at the stories, yes, to analyze, to give perspective, 2 cents, break it all down. Devoe, Okorie, and of course, Lakunle Yusuf are with me this morning. Good morning to you, Lakunle.
Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Devoe. Good morning, everywhere in the world where you're listening to us this morning. And let's see how reorganization and realignment it will get us we get us the right kind of governance we need. Of course, we think that it's too early to start politicking for positions, but hey, here we are.
Indeed, here we are. Devoe, good morning to you.
Morning, world. Morning, Lagos. Food. AY, Lakunle. A cool election. Too bad. Election that has never reached.
We're still about 2 years away from that, but it seems like everybody is jostling, talking about politicking here and there. We're going to dive into those matters. But first of all, Devoe, we need to take a trip to River State and talk about some budgetary matters, if I can put it that way. We're stepping into the Vanguard, I beg your pardon, for our first story this morning. Now, the House of Representatives Ad Hoc Committee on the Political Crisis in Rivers State has given the state's sole administrator, that's Admiral Ibok Ete Ibas, retired, a 48-hour ultimatum to provide a detailed breakdown of key items contained in the 2025 1.48 trillion naira appropriation bill. Now, chairman of the committee and House Majority Leader, Rep. Julius Ihonvere, issued the ultimatum on Monday during a budget defense session in Abuja. Of course, he said the committee, after carefully reviewing the budget presentation, had identified several inconsistencies and questionable allocations requiring further explanations. Among the allocations, query that jumped out was the sum of 24 billion naira earmarked for the installation of CCTV cameras at the River State Government House, and so on and so forth. Devoe, looking at those figures, those cameras must be the type that, see into heaven or thereabouts, with those amounts that are being bandied about.
Well, first of all, I would say we all know that Rivers is under a state of emergency with a sole administrator, an ex-military admiral who is administering the state. Now, on the surface, yes, he was supposed to carry on from where the governor was suspended. And at that time, if you remember, there was a tussle which even got to the Supreme Court about the budget passing. But immediately, the sole administrator came in. First of all, funds were released to him. That's one, about 500 billion. And then he then, what the state of emergency included was that the National Assembly would act as the assembly for leader. Julius Ihonvere is acting as the, let's call it a speaker pro tempore of River State, pending when the state of emergency is reversed or reviewed. Right. So to that extent, the Admiral Ibok Ete brought a 1.48, I think it was, if I'm correct, it was about 1.2. They took it up, or about 1.1. They took it up to about 1.48. That's about 1.5 trillion. And many people have there's some debates that they padded it, which was why it went up so high. But the House of Assembly committee has come back to query some of the items. Now, I mean, the individual who came to the House to represent the sole administrator literally explained the way, that was Mr. Andrew Wike, explained the way the expenditure, saying that the 30 billion for gunboats was for security, that as a riverine state, obviously they would need to protect themselves from criminal activities in the Niger Delta. For those who believe that, it's up to you. He said on the 23 billion provision for contingency provision, he said was for flooding and emergencies, which obviously every state needs to make some allowance available for emergency situations. You know, the federal government cannot go all the way for you. And then for the 24 billion for the CCTV allocation for the governor's office, he said the governor's office is a place of honor and must be protected with high-tech surveillance and security technology. So I'm just trying to let you know that he literally gave legit explanations for that expenditure. But that's not the problem, because if you just think this is all about the budgets, the point is the River State people are not the ones currently in charge of their own sovereignty, of their commonwealth, of their own expenditure, of the way they spend the funds that they have produced. This is where the question lies. Now we hear Wike, that initially said that he was not part, or he had no part to play in what was going on in River State, is now the one speaking, saying that they have reconciled. So can you see why you shouldn't listen to politicians when they speak? You take it with a pinch of salt. Now he's saying, oh, the president did a good job. Those who were attacking the governor before, the state assembly people who they went to war and refused to work with him, are now the ones singing, we want a simplified solution. So can you see how they're changing mouths? The same people that are attacking. Now the governor, the suspended governor, who the president has said in a little while they will bring him back, is now speaking also in a different tone, saying that if we tell ourselves the truth, that peace is the best way. Peace is not peace when it is based on corruption. There is no peace when it's based on injustice. There is no peace when the commonwealth of the people of River State is being captured by a few politicians. I need the listeners, the audience, and especially those in River State, home and abroad, to listen. It's a democracy. Of course, nobody gives these things freely. So I expect confrontation, constantation. I expect aggression. I expect the demand from the people to be able to demand that they have leaders who represent their interests. I mean, for all we know and care, it was rumored that their whole fight was about who got a larger percentage of the state kitty, of the state's pot of soup, okay? If it was shared in 3 portions, the state initially was getting 2 portions while the godfathers were getting 1. The godfather said, I want 2, and the state would take 1, and that's where they all went out. That's where this whole wahala started from.
At the detriment of the people of River State.
At the detriment of the people, definitely. Now, with the help of the federal government, because the godfather has a hand with the presidency, a state of emergency is called, and at the end of the day, the people lose out, because now Wike is the one speaking and saying that all is good. So I'm not saying this to even promote Wike or the state assembly members. I'm speaking to the people of River State. I think there are about roughly 7 million of them. They need to get their act together. They need to wake up. A state that is among the top 5 richest in the country should not be living in penury. River State is meant to be our own small Dubai in Nigeria. But what do you see? A small village that is glorified with high flyovers that they call people for naming ceremony. I rest my case.
Thank you for resting your case on the matter at Devoe. Lakunle, I'm coming to you in a moment. Let me take this message here from AY Noniru, who says, the situation in River State is what I like to call emergency cash out. The admiral's time is now limited, and as such, he needs to siphon funds sharp and secure his bag ASAP. Do you have evidence that that's the case? AY, can you prove that beyond reasonable doubt? Thank you very much. Okay, let's keep the ball rolling here. And luckily, let's stick with matters that have to do with politics. We're still staying in the vanguard right now, and let's talk about opposition. Yeah, in a bold move to reposition itself as a credible opposition platform, the African Democratic Congress, the ADC, has approved the appointment of several prominent political figures, including former Senate President David Mark and former Osun State Governor Rauf Aregbesola to its interim leadership. The development forms part of the ADC's strategy to unify Nigeria's fragmented opposition ahead of the 2027 general elections in a bid to challenge the ruling All Progressives Congress, the APC, and the administration of President Bola Tinubu. I can go on and on about this one, but it's interesting what is going on in the ADC, Lakunle. I mean, seeing some names here, David Mark, and interestingly, Rauf Aregbesola, who was very, very close to the current president. But when you look at this, Lakunle, I mean, we see opposition, a coalition here. There are talks about coalition in other quarters as well. Why do I get this feeling that all these coalitions and so on and so forth are not really about good governance, but let us just get the current administration out of office and we just move from there? What's your take?
One would probably, for those of us who are not so much into the politics of things in Nigeria, one might say that okay, so there's some form of disappointment at the names being bandied around this new coalition or new opposition, as it were. First off, politics is continuous, yes, so people are free to make their choices of political associations and all that. Right. But when you begin to look further, particularly names that you have mentioned, Rauf Aregbesola, he'd been, since 1999, he'd been in government. He'd been commissioner in Lagos for about, I think, 8 or 12 years. He'd been governor for 8 years in Osun. He'd been minister for 8 years, all in the same party. Have you read the book, The Godfather? Remember the battle for the New York between the 5 families? Can you imagine that, for example, the consigliere to the Corleone family leaving to go and join the Bazzini family to fight against the Corleone? That's exactly how it is with Aregbesola joining up with another party, particularly that it is immediately after he left office as a minister under this current party that is in government. I mean, so you can begin to see what people say about politicians and politics, that there is nothing about the common interest, the commonwealth of the people in their minds. It is always about what is in need for me. However, something I see that is interesting here for me is that the party that they are moving to, that's the Alliance for African Democratic Party, or what's ADC? Yeah,
ADC, African Democratic Congress.
African Democratic Congress.
Yeah.
One thing I see that is very interesting here is that the national chairman of the party willingly stepped down to allow for reorganization and realignment of interests within the party. I mean, this is probably the first time this is happening in the polity of Nigerian politics. We've seen other parties that these same people have tried to join, and you've seen the resistance the current members, the sitting chairman, had put up for. So it might be that there's something in their coalition, that their new arrangement that might work. But for me, I am so much not interested in the alignment, the realignment, the joining up and whatever. I'm so much interested in what the average Nigerian benefits. We're still talking about 4 or 5 children dying, under 5 dying every minute of malaria. We're still talking about the number of about 35 million Nigerians living with HIV/AIDS. We're still talking about 30 million Nigerian children out of school. We're still talking about non-accessibility to potable water in all our major cities. But here we are, the major item on the front pages of our newspapers is politicians moving from party to party because of their current interests and their hatred or dislike for current arrangements in which they lost out. And this is why, for every one of us that are not in this thing, we always say, ask the questions. Know who your local government chairman, know who your House of Assembly member is, know who your House of Rep member is, know who your senator is. Ask questions. Let us gather together to ask these questions. By the time we do that, some of these things will reduce. People will focus on governance rather than on all this, what is in need for me. I do not see anything changing if this is going to continue to happen between now and 2027. I am sure we'll see more of this kind of movement. And so I'm not so much impressed. It's nothing big, it's nothing spectacular that want to expect of all of this, right? But hey, we are Nigerians. We always know how to get out of the rabbit hole every time we get around one. So let's watch, let's see how it pans out, let's see what they're able to get out of this for themselves. But I hope that the Nigerian and Nigeria wins at the end of the day.
That is the thing we want to see, Nigerians being the beneficiaries at the end of the day when it comes to all these issues. Peter in Festac says, please make it make sense to me. Where in the Constitution do we have sole administrator? The same National Assembly members that used voice votes are now giving ultimatums for ABAS to appear before them. These people are joking.
Can I quickly respond to that?
Yes, please.
So the Constitution of Nigeria allows for the president to declare a state of emergency if and when he thinks it is right, with the consent of the National Assembly. And immediately that happens, the National Assembly becomes a law-making body for that particular state for the period of the emergency. Now, the question is, we have always debated it. What power does the president have to appoint this person? We'll subject this to all the debates. And that's why we always say, I'm one of those who believe that our 1999 Constitution is not a perfect document and that we need to continue to test it. Since this has happened, I'm not aware anybody has approached any courts to challenge or ask for interpretation of these things. So if we don't, this kind of questions that our listeners ask will keep coming up. We need to start challenging this constitution so that we can begin to have a mature document. That's why the American Constitution is so mature today. You hear the first, second, third, fifth, seventh amendments, because they've made one law, and then because they kept challenging it, they were able to arrive at a neater and leaner and cleaner one to make it more reasonable for people to understand and behave. And that's what we need to also do with our constitution.
All right, thank you for that, Lakunle. Let me take one more message and come back to you, Devoe. Shegun says, all these coalition and opposition leaders were once in office. What did they do for the common man? In the past, they had all the cheap oil money to build schools, hospitals, refineries, roads, and improve our infrastructure. They did not do all this for over 20 years and now want to rescue Nigeria. Will they bring back fuel subsidy or defend the Naira with our earnings? I beg, Jerry. Shegun is not having it at all. Anyways, Devoe, let's take a walk into The Guardian. Let's talk some money here. And this report, released by the Westminster Foundation for Democracy, WFD, has raised the alarm over the increasing cost of politics in Nigeria. Now, this was as the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, unveiled a comprehensive electoral timetable for 2025 and 2026, including 5 major elections and the nationwide resumption of the continuous voter registration. That's the CVR. Now, WFP revealed that post-election litigation might require as much as 1 billion for contesting or defending a mandate. Now, according to the reports, the country's democratic future is at risk as women, youth, and persons with disabilities are being priced out of the political space, adding that justice itself is now only affordable to the highest bidders. It's like it's all about the Benjamins when it comes to politics in Nigeria. I mean, that's been an age-old thing, but the amounts being bandied around, mind-boggling.
Yeah, this is a story by the Westminster Foundation of Democracy. It's like a NGO sponsored by the EU, and they've fished out some data. The story is actually in 2 parts. One aspect talks about the fact that in some state elections, getting a House of Rep tickets cost about 500 million to about a billion. Okay. And why they're saying this is because most times when the elections take place, as you see, we always end up going to courts. It's this going to courts that is where the politicians do their gymnastics. And what they're saying is they found out that lawyers charge as high as 500 million to about $1 billion per client. Now you would ask, because most times it's like, are the lawyers thieves, or all they do is just to make money when it's time for elections? It's not that the lawyers just make money. They don't perform any magic. The lawyers actually use that money and more or less grease the judiciary in their favor, which is why they're raising the alarm of the threats that the judiciary is becoming a strategic partner in manipulating elections in this country. As we remember, when Tinubu came on board this administration, the first people that got statutory allocations increase was the judiciary. Even in Buhari's time, it was the same play. It even took a Yaradua of blessed memory that told us that, look, I was brought in on a process that was not above board. So we know that this is what happens. And what has happened is that we have monetized our democratic process into who has a bigger war chest. And just like what happened in Edo State, this NGO did say that about 2.3 to about 3.8 billion was noted to have been spent within that election process. Now, remember, it's not just the judiciary that are beneficiaries of this, what I call it, big fish distribution. Even the voters, you know how voter buying takes place in terms of recharge cards, 10 kg bags of rice, even cooked food, amala and ewedu soup. If you vote for us, we'll give you, I mean, if you come in our favor, we'll give you amala and begiri. If you finish the voting and you have proven that you voted in our favor, we will now add the meat and the bokoto. All this is where politicians spend their money. And unfortunately, it has become culture across the whole country. Now, INEC now came up to say that despite because in the reports, they mentioned that despite the limits put by INEC to the political parties, there's weak enforcement or any form of compliance. Now, INEC, the second part of this story speaks about the INEC's timetable in terms of the readiness for the next 2 years. And just to highlight them so that people take notes. First of all, they said there are 5 major elections highlighted for 2025-2026. The Anambra election is coming up on the 8th of November, okay? Area councils for Abuja, the FCT, is coming up in February 2026. Ekiti state election is coming up June 2026. And right. Osun State is coming up in August next year. They've also said on their X handle that the CVR, that's the continuous voter registration, which many citizens who have now turned 18 and above, and those who were not able to register for the last election, this is their opportunity. It will begin in August 2025, where many people will be asked to go to their various wards and locations and register so that they can be able to vote. I'm not sure this year around, some of the electoral reforms that we had all dearly hoped for. As you can see, the National Assembly is in the pocket of the executive. So some of the reforms we're looking forward to was that you didn't need to come out with your ID card to vote. That if the BVAS is working, all you just need to do is your thumbprint, or even it can take your biometrics and you vote. 2, we expected them to pass electronic transmission so that the IREV and the would be legit when we go to court for defense of what happened. But they haven't done all of that. So we're still boiling down to presentation of the Form ECR, which shows that every polling unit, which we're asking every voter to take a picture of, 1. 2, and this is where the war chest conversation comes in. Currently, by constitutional law, only the presence and the evidence of the polling unit agents is what is allowed in courts. But if you follow the Edo State formula, whereby opposition will grease the palms of your own political agents if you give them 20,000 or 30,000 naira, and the opposition hands them $100, which is 160,000 naira, I'm sure you know where the vote is going to and why they will use Biro and change your figures at the collation room and announce something else, which will end up going to the courts, which the same lawyer will collect $1 billion naira to distribute to ensure at the end of the day that your franchise, your votes does not count. So I'm just explaining what is currently happening in our electoral process. It's you and me that will make this difference.
You and me making the difference. Just reminds me of you and me against the world. That sort of thing. All right, Lakunle, let's dive into another story here because time is flying by very, very quickly. Let's step into the Guardian once again. And this one is talking about legislation here. Now, the Senate has taken a significant step towards promoting green mobility and local manufacturing with the adoption of Senator Uzo Kalu's Electric Vehicle Transition and Green Mobility Bill 2025. Now, the bill, which passed its first reading yesterday, seeks to establish a comprehensive framework for Nigeria's transition to electric vehicles, otherwise known as EVs. Now, according to Kalu, the proposed legislation is designed to position Nigeria as a regional leader in clean energy transportation while boosting industrial capacity. I'll let you take it away from here, Lakunle.
Okay. Well, when you look at the story, the first question, the typical Nigerian average question is, we will never get electricity. Why are we doing electric cars? But you see, my answer to that question, my personal answer, my personal opinion is, if you are going to Ibadan and you had an accident in a car yesterday and you come out of the car alive, does it mean that today, if you have to go to Ibadan, you not go by road again? I mean, so in looking at all of these things, maybe we are putting the cart before the horse. Maybe the first things we need to do, right, is to first of all guarantee food security, to guarantee safety of life and property in Nigeria, to have our children in school, to have access to basic medical and health facilities. Maybe that one will preclude this. Because as it were today, if you ask me, all the oil that we are producing in Nigeria, if we went electric, who will buy our oil? It's just like saying that you are producing something but you are not consuming it, and you're asking somebody to come and consume what you are buying, what you are producing. So if we do all of those things, I don't have a problem with a policy for electric vehicles. It's okay. It's also important to consider this vis-a-vis the greenhouse effect, the, what do you call that thing? How do we
Global
just
warming?
global warming? Yeah, it's also good to consider against all that. And it's also good to, even if we don't start now, let's have a plan that in 15 years time, where we have put all our 30 million out of school children in school, where we have health facility like this, in that time we'll be spending this this percentage of the amount costing us to educate our children, to prepare the ground for this electronic vehicle business. Come to even think of it, if we're going to start electronic vehicle business, we have not even done the four-cylinder combustion engine business successfully. We have tried with Peugeot, we've tried with Volkswagen, we've tried with Steyr in Bauchi, we've tried with Peugeot in Kaduna. Where Stallion Group is here. So many of those people are here. How many Nigerians are able to afford those, even the combustion engines? I think to 2022, there was a report I saw that Nigerians didn't buy up to 45,000 units of brand new cars. Was it 2021 or 2022? The last one I saw, I can't remember the exact year. Some ridiculous number like that. So if we're not even buying the brand new combustion engine cars, why are we in a hurry to get to the electric ones? Besides, our carbon footprints in Africa, the whole of Africa, is so negligible compared to the carbon footprints of the industrialized nations. So when you put all of this together, right, with my personal opinion and all of that, and one being very unemotional about it, I think that we should just put this in abeyance and focus on the things that are even more important. Even electricity did that the cars will consume. We don't even generate more than 4,000, what's it called?
Megawatts.
4,000 megawatts. So when you look at all of this together, I think that this is not the things that we should be talking about. We just talk about our laws. The law, somebody's just talking about which constitution gives somebody power to appoint solar administrator, for example. These are our laws. We have not even grounded it, and we're doing all of this together. So that's my position about it. That's what I think that we should do. I think that we should put it at abeyance and focus on our focus and get the basic things going first.
That is the important thing. Thank you for sharing those thoughts there, Lakunle. Let me take your messages. Yeah, let me take your messages as we wrap up on the conversation. Let me just try to rush through about them as soon as I can. There's a number of messages to actually get through here, but let's see how many I can get through before I need to wrap it up. This is from Devoe. She says, congratulations to Nigerians on having a viable opposition party, ADC, since the demise and passing away of PDP. PDP is still there now. ADC has capacity and capable members that can challenge the ruling party. APC, challenge the ruling party APC. It's not time to criticize or find faults among coalition members, but to unite and support them. The goal is to reclaim the nation from the hand of the strongman that has caused hardship and suffering. Well, that is your opinion. Adidiji, thank you for your message. Tajuddin says PDP, ADC, or ADA coalition, same old of the same old. I will not use the term that you actually used, but just take it like that. Oluwaseyi says, I thought the CCTV thing for the River State Government House was, as they say, in quotes, fake news, knowing the internet and Nigeria these days, but someone really went to defend it and other incredulous things before a committee. Wow. I guess they need to see into the future with the CCTV. As for the gunboats, that one a big scam as well. Rexins Ruler says, the fact that the old guard are looking for a party with a similar abbreviation as the APC says they are trying an old bootleg trick, make an imitation to beat the original, like a Puma shoe to rival an established Puma. It never works. Fabian Inekwe says, even in The Godfather, within the cartel, they try to kill the Godfather. And in part 2, a brother scheme with the rival to kill his brother. We need a complete system change and paradigm shift that must start with doing the needful come the next election. Until then, Michael's
I referred to the book. I didn't refer to the movie. So,
I guess he was bringing his own parallel as well. Speaking about The Godfather, Michael put a number of figures here concerning the CCTV cameras, and as far as he says, no matter how you calculate, even in dollars, he never reached 1 million. Are they installing 5,000 cameras? He asks. Well, we're asking questions, a lot of questions. We don't have answers yet. William says, I'm confused about the electric vehicle framework when the federal government under Buhari has already launched a 10-year strategy and framework. You know how we like to do in Nigeria? I mean, someone starts something and someone else comes in and decides, I don't like that, I'll start mine all over again. So, hey, here we are. Abayomi says, what tangible contributions has David Mark made to the development or security of Benue State? Why do killings and violence remain so rampant under his political legacy? A military governor under IBB. Rauf Aregbesola served as Minister of Interior for 8 years, yet his record has been overshadowed by the achievements of the current minister, who in less than 2 years has exposed the mediocrity of his tenure. Tony Marimbit says, we've stayed long enough on this to know that the National Assembly means whenever they start making this kind of noise, bring our own share and carry on. They should just give some time for parties concerned to negotiate their portion, and in a matter of days, you hear nothing about this again. And let me squeeze one more in. Emeka says, people in the ADA party don't matter now. Some might be there as mere moles for other parties. Interesting thoughts. Anyways, we need to call it a morning. Time is very, very fast spent. Thank you for all the messages and keeping it tuned. Thank you so much to you, Lakunle and Devoe, for joining me this morning.
Thank you, Ayo, for having me. Let's go out there and make the best of what is rest of this week. I wish all of us a very, very productive second half of 2025.
All right, Devoe, you are muted in case you did not know.
Devoe does not want to talk to us.
All right, looks like All right, seems like Devoe is preoccupied at the moment. We need to call it to morning. Thank you all very much. Keep it tuned to the Smooth Breakfast. 8:15, we'll take a walk into the locker room. Tega will be in for great sporting action and so much more.